Thanks very much, Bill. I guess. Back in the late 1950s and early 1960s, when Ken Horne was establishing his legacy as one of New Milford High School's all-time best all-around athletes, the high school was located on East Street in the center of town. Ken is not quite old enough to have performed in the era of Hickory High School in the great sports movie Hoosiers, but the old New Milford High School on East Street, where Ken and his classmates went to school, could easily have been the set for Hoosiers. A tired old building with a tiny gymnasium and a makeshift track on the grassy area behind the school that was actually more dirt than grass. In fact, the gym was so small that the basketball team had to travel across town, across the dreaded river, to new John Pettibone School to play in the big gym in town. But it was a romantic era for high school sports, and it was a romantic era for high school athletes. And it was then that a tall, slender athlete named Ken Horne became a standout in cross country, indoor and outdoor track and field, and most of all, basketball. It was an era when New Milford was such a small town that everyone knew everyone. And when high school star athletes were legends in their own time. And Ken was definitely one of those legends. It's an honor to have Ken here tonight with his wife of 60 years, Judy, their family, and many friends. In his days as a Green Wave athlete, Ken was an outstanding, long-striding runner on the cross-country team, who was a top 10 medalist in the WCC meet his senior year. He was a terrific performer in both indoor and outdoor track, in which he was a state champion high hurdler and a school record-setting high jumper. I know that because I competed in that event, and he went several inches higher than I did. But as good as he was in these sports, basketball was really where Ken shone. Playing in the WCC that included powerhouses like Abbott Tech and Wilton, Ken led the league in scoring both his junior and senior years, and as a senior, he helped lead the Green Wave to 11 victories in their last 12 games to finish second in the conference and be remembered as one of the very best basketball teams New Milford High School has ever produced. I can still see Kenny firing up jumpers from the corner with that smooth stroke, slashing to the hoop for layups, and skying high to tap in a teammate's missed shot or snag a rebound and start a fast break. The kid could play. I was lucky enough to be Ken's teammate and fellow high jumper on the track team, coached by legendary New Milford High School Athletic Hall of Fame coach Russ Devon. In basketball, Ken was a star on the varsity, and as a freshman, I was mostly playing JV. But the varsity and JV practiced together down at Pettibone every day, and I learned so much from competing and playing against and with and against Ken and his teammates on that outstanding varsity team, and from getting clobbered by those guys in scrimmages, varsity versus JV. You might have seen two companion photos up on the wall or in your booklet of the 5 seniors on the 1961-62 NMHS basketball team. The top photo was taken in 1962 when they were seniors, and the bottom photo was taken 51 years later in 2013. It's really cool that those 5 gentlemen have remained friends and have continued to get together through all those years. And what's even cooler is that all 5 of them, plus junior starting guard John Graney, are still alive and well, and they're all here tonight. It's one of the most remarkable things I've seen, to have all those people here together 63 years after they graduated from the Milford High School. When I call your names, would you gentlemen please stand, and as we trained you to do the other day, please remain standing. Ken Horne. P.T. Lester Bennett. Dick Quaz. John Wentz. John Green. And while we're at it, two more athletes from the class of '62 are also here. Cheerleader Sonny Rosado Osborne. And standout hurdler Pat Heath. It really is remarkable for the whole group to be here tonight. And I think it's also, it also speaks volumes about the type of teammate, the type of friend, the type of man Ken Horne is, that so many people have turned out to honor him tonight. Those of us lucky enough to have seen Ken perform on the basketball court or on the track remember him as one of the finest athletes in school history and on the very short list of the best basketball players ever to put on a Green Wave uniform. And after tonight, and after his plaque is placed in the Athletic Hall of Fame, on the Athletic Hall of Fame wall down at the high school, Ken will be forever remembered by all for his all-around excellence. So it is now my pleasure and my honor to officially induct into the NMHS Athletic Hall of Fame a great athlete, a longtime friend, and a memorable long-ago teammate, Ken Horne.
What a nice introduction, huh? Oh. First of all, I gotta salute all of you for being here tonight. You're very brave. You came, you got good food, you had a great meal. You came for entertainment, but tonight you're gonna get an extra bonus. And that bonus is you get to see an 81-year-old, 6'3", red-headed Puerto Rican cry and share some tears tonight. First of all, I want to thank the committee and Art and Norm for putting on an unbelievable banquet. I mean, I had no idea. I came all the way from Florida. I had no idea we were going to see all of these folks. I've seen people here tonight I haven't seen in 50 years. So this is very, very special. I want to start out by saying that, how do you say thanks? How do you say thanks to Evelyn Lafayette Miranda, my mother, for bringing me to New Milford from Puerto Rico in 1957. And about a year after we arrived, my mom went through a very difficult divorce, and we both struggled. My mom, as a single parent, trying to make ends meet, and me as a confused 13-year-old looking for acceptance and identity and new friends. Could athletics be the answer? Stay tuned. How do you say thanks to the families that opened up their homes to me and treated me like their very own? The Pieces, the Yorks, and the Quazes. How do you say thanks to Bert Green? A wonderful man who met my mom at the State Highway Department, and they later married, and I gained a sister Judy, and I have a brother-in-law named Peter Messer, who's here. And I got two brothers, Sherm Green and Bobby Green, and they're here also tonight. When we moved in with them, this was a great experience for my mom and I. We had a little apartment next to the high school, and when we moved in with them, we felt we were the luckiest people in the world. We felt we were like George and Weezy Jefferson from the Jeffersons. We were moving on up to the east side, and we actually moved all the way up to Canterbury Hill. To my coaches, Bob Mahana, how do you say thanks? To Bob Mahana, Al Bassney, and Russ Devon. Russ Devon was the best track coach in all of New England. And to my very first basketball coach, who's here tonight, he coached me 67 years ago. Pete Messer, would you please stand up? Pete Messer was responsible for not only myself being here tonight as a Hall of Famer, but he also has Dr. Howard Pease, who's also a Hall of Famer. Both of us were in this 1958 junior high team. Pete also has a third Hall of Famer that he was responsible for. There was a young man by the name of Tommy Roberts, who's a Hall of Famer also. And he was from the class of 68. But not only that, Pete Messer was the point guard on the 1953 basketball team that had Dick Valinsky installed. So Pete Messer has 4 Hall of Famers that he is accountable for. I think that's a one hell of a Pete, I just wanted to say something. I had recent conversation with an individual, and he was sharing some information on you that exemplifies how you impacted the lives of young people. Now, today, you don't really have conversations anymore. Everything is text message. So we texted a lot. And Pete, if you remember, when we were all in school together, we invented texting in 1962. Except what we called it was, we passed messages, we passed notes to each other with a note. And God forbid that a school teacher would intercept that message or that note. But that's how we did it. Anyhow, Pete, I'd like to share part of this conversation that we had. Pete Messer was also my first coach in the 7th and 8th grade. And my experiences as a basketball player under Pete had a very impact on me, not only as a basketball player, but as a young man. I never played basketball or played organized ball before, so I had no idea whether I was going to be selected for the 8th grade team as a 7th grader. After a few tryout days, Pete announced that he would post a list of the guys who made the team on the bulletin board the next morning. This is actually a text. I had it blown up, Pete. I was so nervous that I didn't sleep at all that night. Geez, that would be a good song title, wouldn't it? I was so anxious to find out if I had made the team that I asked my mother to drive me to school early that morning. I ran down the hallway. I was so excited I couldn't wait to get to the locker room. And there at the distance, I spotted the list. I saw my name on that list. It was one of the most exciting moments of my childhood. Then Pete held an election for co-captains. And to my amazement, I got selected by my teammates to be a co-captain as a 7th grader. This was the biggest boost to my confidence and self-image that I'd ever had. Pete, that young man is here tonight, except he's not young anymore. Art Cummings. How do you say thanks to Raymond Trable, who was our tough ex-Marine principal? This guy was so tough, he had a 22-inch neck. He was 250 pounds, he was tough. He saw me goofing off in a class one day, and my good friend Quaz and I, in the old East Street building, they have these low windows, and you could lean out the window in your chair, and Quaz and I would work on our early spring tans. Look at the tan he's got today. I mean, I got skin cancer, but he's got tans. Anyhow, Mr. Trable would be peeking through the glass by the door, and he saw me goofing around in class. He didn't see Quaz, but he saw me. So he opened the door. Uh-oh. I walked out in the hallway. He looked at me. He grabbed me by the shirt and the hair. He spun me around and he slammed me against the locker. He held me there. He lifted me. He held me there for it seemed like 5 minutes. He gave me the toughest come to Jesus talk I'd ever had in my life. He put me down. He looked at me straight in the eye. And he said, "We care for you. We want you to do good. Now get back in there and fly right." I looked at him back in the eye and I said, "Yes, sir." I went back into the classroom and I sat next to Quas again. Quas was not leaning out the window then. He said, "What did he say? What did he say?" He didn't say anything. "No, I know he had to say something. What did he say?" I said, "You like me, you wanted me to do good, and you love me." Anyhow, Mr. Trable, I needed that. He impacted my life that day. He shook me up, he straightened me out, and I followed his orders and continued my complete best behavior that I had. So I needed that, Mr. T. Thank you. I just say thanks to my fellow senior teammates who put peer pressure on me. They inspired me to do my very best. Dr. Howard, Pete Pease, Dick, pass me the ball twice. Big John Wynn, Johnny Angel, Lester Hatchet Bennett, Jim Du O'Connell, Patsy Pistol Pete, Jim Bird Hill, Barry Ramsey, Sonny Rosado Osborne, and the cheerleaders, and those that have passed before us too early: Phil Stacks Jurglon, Pete Speedy Lynn, Tommy Javelin Young, and my very special friend and best man at Judy's at my wedding in 1965, Tom Flash York. And yes, I do have a nickname also. Rico, and very appropriate, Rico from Puerto Rico. And Guas calls me Rico Suave. And Dr. Pease calls me, in a very refined way, Continental Ken at the Kentucky Derby party. I believe peer pressure is an incredible thing. Too often, there's a tendency to talk about peer pressure in a negative connotation. But sometimes peer pressure gets us through a very difficult time, because it's nearly impossible to take a step backwards when the whole group is moving forward. In sports, peer pressure leads to competition. Competition leads to expectation and confidence. And all that leads to championships. And that's what the Milford High School has been all about. As clearly exemplified by the New England champion girls gymnastics team. And all the others that are here tonight. The class of '62 defines what camaraderie and brotherhood are all about. Monthly meetings are held where the guys get together. And keep in mind, we graduated 63 years ago, and these guys get together once a month and have lunch together, and they talk about a lot of crazy stuff. They are joined by other teammates from other teams also, from prior years. Then there's the annual pilgrimage to New Smyrna Beach to the Peace Palace, where we get together, all of us, as a group of 8 or 9 of us, and annually we renew old friendships. We tell a bunch of lies about how good we were. We are basically legends in our own mind. In closing, I'd like to say that athletics has been a very important part and pivotal part of my life. It not only gave me an identity and an acceptance, it helped me form my character. And probably most important of all, it gave me a band of brothers to bond with for life. There they are. This Hall of Fame gathering is not just about athletic achievements, but for me, as I mentioned earlier, it's much more than that. My presence and nomination and recognition that I received this evening reinforces the support and contribution that I've had from each and every person that I've mentioned tonight. And that's how I say thanks. Thank you. God bless, and go Green Wave. Says he feels short.